Hey everyone, this is your old pal Darren, one half of the podcasting team of Josh and Darren Make a Movie. We wanted to start this podcast with a bang. Our intention was to shoot a very cinematic take on podcasting, something that really showed that we were filmmakers and we were going to come out of the gate different and swinging. And, we had juggling clowns and we had Jerry Bruckheimer explosions and crazy Saw-esque stunts all in episode 1. Part of the intention of Darren and Josh Make a Movie was we wanted to help aspiring filmmakers and take them behind the scenes, show them things, teach them things. One of the things we might have taught you in episode 1 was always make sure you have a backup copy of your footage. Never keep all of your footage in one singular place. That is just novice. That is filmmaking 101. A follow-up to that tip would be, if I'm ever directing you, never give me the footage, because I am a dumpster fire of a human being. I am the most unreliable, scatterbrained idiot in the entire world. I would leave it at Starbucks, it would end up in my swimming pool or at the bottom of a ravine, and alas, that is what happened to episode 1's footage. Someone on our team decided it would be a good idea to entrust me with the hard drive. And now here we are just 2 days before our podcast is to drop, and I dropped the hard drive, and it didn't remount, and I couldn't get the footage. So episode 1 is just going to be audio, but don't worry. New protocols have been put in place, and I am no longer allowed to touch the footage. I am not even allowed near Josh anymore. So it's all. We're gonna work through it, guys. But right now, go grab yourself a bourbon, a scotch, your drink of choice. Sit down and enjoy episode 1, audio only, just for episode 1 of Darren and Josh Make a Movie.
Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats. The show is about to begin.
Oh, yes. There will be blood.
No, it's not creepy at all.
I run a house with 50 crazy bitches.
Taught them to survive.
This is real life!
You're hallucinating.
It is real.
This is okay.
That girl really needs to learn to keep her mouth shut.
A man with the cello. That is disgusting.
Is that a fucking piranha?
They took my penis! They took my penis! Oh, I wish I hadn't seen that.
You haven't seen anything yet.
You want to play games, motherfucker?
Citrate comes in a little glass vial.
Hallelujah!
Darren and Josh Make a Movie.
Hey everyone. For those who don't know me, my name is Darren.
I am Josh.
And we started a podcast, and it's called, what's it called?
Darren and Josh Make a Movie.
Darren and Josh Make a Movie. I'm not going to bury the lead here. We're going to make a movie by the end of this podcast, and you are going to help us.
Not this particular podcast.
Not throughout the
over
podcast.
Over the course of this.
Yeah. We're going to start at the very beginning from inception and take you all the way through, hopefully, the execution and distribution of it.
Do we have an idea yet?
We don't. We're going to get to that later. And that's where you're going to come in. Whether it's you're listening to us, you're watching us on YouTube, or wherever that is, we're going to get to that later. But I think it's important to address why now and why us, because I feel like we're 30 years behind everyone else starting podcasts. We're maybe like the grandpa on it. Someone called me a boomer recently. It was kind of this really.
It was his daughter.
It was my daughter. No, you know what's crazy is that I've always loved going on podcasts. Like, you and I both have done a lot of podcasts from the movie Crypt onwards, and I loved getting that, and I looked forward to it. Like, I could get there and I could vent, and it was like a therapy session. And it was, it was something that I've always loved doing. So,
and I think that one of the kind of cool things about this particular production that we're putting together is that we used to listen to all of those DVD extras, and seeing the behind the scenes, making a movie, and it seems like those have all kind of gone away with the Laserdisc, and
because no one has physical media anymore.
Yeah.
And to me, I think that I've always kind of found an audience by trying to be as realistic and real as possible and not sugarcoating things. And I love that. I love, a long time ago, one of my agents said to me, "You don't burn bridges, you throw Molotov cocktails on them." and I kind of do.
I feel like we're going to be really lucky if we get out of this entire
without being blackballed.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I can see that happening very quickly.
It is. We had to set some ground rules before we began this about names we couldn't say, but I'm over it. Let's go. No, so why now? As I think that for me, as I've gotten older and I've gotten more angry and bitter and desensitized, I give zero fucks, and I just want to talk. I want to talk because I realize that I'm not the only one going through this, and I think that the more that I've become friends with other filmmakers, you realize that so many people are struggling with this, and it's nothing that I heard about in film school, nothing that anyone talked to me about.
Yeah, 100%.
And I think that it's time for me that I want to pull back the curtain and say, yo, this is what it's really like being on set, and this is the struggles as working filmmakers, which I think I'm on my 18th film right now. Yep. What I've gone through.
Let's just talk a little bit about how we met. I think is probably a great way into it.
Yeah. So, I've obviously known Josh's work. I mean, I am a huge appreciator of Good Luck Chuck. I mean, that is,
dude.
No, I get invited back to the Saw universe. And before I was brought back into it, I get a phone call. I was actually in New York, and I was about to direct a Broadway show, which was like a huge dream of mine. And my phone rings, and it's Mark Berg, and he says, Darren, where are you? And I said, I'm in New York. And he goes, guess what? Already? I need you to read the script. And I hadn't talked to Mark in years. And so to me, I wasn't even thinking about the Saw movies at that point. And he goes, check your email. I sent it to you. And it's called The Organ Donor at the time. And it did not say Saw on it anywhere.
Yep.
And I said,
that's one kind of interesting thing about the Saw screenplays that we have written. All of us have written. Darren wrote. You wrote on
1.5.
1.5. I've written now three.
Yeah.
Is that you put fake names on the scripts just in case an actor or a PA happens to leave it at a Starbucks. They pick up the script and they're like, the organ donor, this means nothing. If it said Saw 9 on there, it would be a problem.
I was like, Mark, I'm in New York. I can't be there. And he goes, you're meeting with Chris Rock in 48 hours or something like that. And I go, excuse me, who? And he goes, read the script. And it was about 15 or 20 pages in before I was like, holy shit, this is a Saw movie. I'm on the flight at that point, and I texting Mark from the flight. And over the course of, so immediately I meet Chris Rock. I fall in love. I have a man crush on this guy. He's one of the coolest dudes I've ever met. We start in on it and start in almost immediately. And it was about 2 or 3 weeks of sitting around a table with you, Chris Rock, myself, the other writer, Pete. And it was normally as a writer, I hate compromising to other directors that are going to direct my stuff. Yeah. And as a director, I don't like having to ask a writer's permission. I'm like, it's my movie now and this is the vision. I get really territorial of it. I did not feel that one time on Spiral. I felt that it was such a collaborative, and you and Pete both were just so collaborative. It was just a great experience. And it became, again, I'm going to talk about therapy a lot in here, that Josh, you became my therapist. I would say this to Mark Berg if he was in the room. Mark Berg is one of the scariest individuals. And when you put Oren and Mark together, it's a
powder keg.
It would be like sitting next to Tony Soprano and I don't know who the other one is. I don't know, but it's scary. I had taken some time off making movies. I was doing a lot of immersive theater. I feel like I couldn't have a voice the way that I wanted to, because a lot of ideas that I was having were getting shut down right away. Because I knew to be directing Chris Rock and Samuel L. Jackson, it was a huge opportunity for me. And I think they knew it was a huge opportunity. And I think there was a lot of playing it safe. And you became the sounding board for my losing my mind. I would call you in the middle of the night and I'd be like, I have this idea, but I know they would hate it. And it got to the point that you and I would do a little dancing where I would tell you the idea that I wanted. And then it would become your idea that you would go in, because if you had the idea, they would love it. And
that is not true at all. And I actually got fucked a couple of times by that, where Darren would give us like an idea that had already been shot down by Mark and Oren, but he loved the idea so much that made us go in to like the firing squad. But
what's great is it was the first time that I can remember actively fighting for a writer to be on set. Normally, as a director, I don't want the writer on set, because so much of what I do is, looking at the set, looking at the location, the costumes, the actors, then we change things. Yeah. We try to make it organic. And I think a lot of times writers have a hard time processing how quickly things can change in their script. I love origin stories. I mean, in my mind, your origin story is Good Luck Chuck, but I feel like you had shit before Good Luck Chuck. So what was that moment? What was that moment for you?
Dude, I moved out to Los Angeles to be an actor. I had a theater degree. I thought I was a fucking stud. I thought that I was gonna be the next Tom Cruise. Like, Top Gun had just been released. I was gonna be the next Tom Cruise.
I see a lot of similarities.
Yeah, thank you so much. Hairline. Yeah. So when I moved out here, I didn't know what a picture and resume looked like. So I applied to a magazine called Backstage West. And put in a fake ad for a movie and basically cast myself in the movie. So,
but wait. Why would you put out an ad?
Because I was trying to figure out what my picture should look like, what my resume should look like. So I tried to get resumes and pictures from people that are my type. So I put in, 21 years old, a little bit left of cool and right of geeky. Like, I was trying to find like what my type was. And I show up the next day, and literally there are thousands of resumes. And this was at a time when people were first sending out resumes, they were sending them out in manila envelopes, and they were real. They were photographs. People had to spend $1.99 per photo and go to a resume person and staple it on there and send it in the mail. And I got so many resumes, I realized this is bad. Like, I'm not prepared for this at all. But I got an audition, and I got cast in a movie. It was called Western Avenue. It was a foreign film. I played opposite the most famous actress in all of Korea. Her name was Kang Soo-yeon, and she was amazing. She was absolutely incredible. I played her asshole American boyfriend. I still remember one of my favorite lines in the movie was, I went up to her and said, "Why can't you be like other Oriental women and be submissive to me?" That was like one of my lines in the movie.
Oh,
yeah. It was brutal. And the movie came out, and the movie wasn't bad. I was horrific. And it was at that moment that I realized I should never act again. I should do the audiences of the world a favor and never, ever, ever be in front of a camera again. And I became a PA. I got a job. I was a bar back in at the Biltmore Hotel in downtown Los Angeles. And I became very good friends with the bartender there. His name was Eddie Ritchie. Eddie was a screenwriter. He wrote some great scripts, and he put me in touch with the producer of a TV show called Parker Lewis Can't Lose.
Watched it?
Yeah, and it was my entree into the world. And the really incredible thing is, like, you think about, all right, Parker Lewis Can't Lose. It was a dumb, CWWB kind of show.
Right.
And you'd think that you wouldn't learn anything from that kind of a situation. But the writer's room was like the who's who murderer's row of future Hollywood. The showrunner, a guy named Clyde Phillips, who I worked with, is the showrunner of Dexter. He's been working on Dexter for 10 years. Adam Barr was one of the showrunners of Will and Grace. Tom Spezialy won an Emmy for The Leftovers and for Watchmen. I mean, it was the most amazing film school of all time, and it was all in real life. It was like, I was getting a real opportunity to learn. So that was my break-in.
I mean, to me, I'm always fascinated because no two stories are ever the same.
No,
they're not. And I think that I learned as much failing as I did succeeding on anything that I did.
Yeah.
And I talk about that a lot. I think that in my career, I am primarily a failure. The successes are few and far between, but the successes are what people know me from. Yeah. They know me from the Saw 2 or Saw 3 or Saw 4 or Spiral. But in between those, there are millions of films that don't get made. Dude, I do like Good Luck Chuck. We talked briefly before the camera broke. What is your Good Luck Chuck Rotten Tomato score?
5%, dude.
I might have a 5% or 4% on 11.
All right. And Addison, will you please look that up and put it up on the screen.
I want to know who wins that.
Yeah.
You know, I used to hide my Rotten Tomato scores. Now it's a badge of honor.
Oh,
I got a 5%. Like it is.
We are going to we're going to spend like a mean tweets episode where we read our own horrible reviews. I think that'll be a lot of fun.
One of the craziest things about filmmaking for me is how things just fuck up that you can plan and plan and plan, a la what just happened right now. We're doing a podcast and we talked for 26 minutes. The camera wasn't recording. It was in all fairness, it was my camera and it was my fault because my phone, and my phone, like me, is a disaster. You can't plan for these things.
All right, well, let's get back into it.
Yeah.
Look, I've always been really, really impressed with the crazy things that you did to get recognized at the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us a little bit about that, because you came into this business in a way that nobody else has.
I mean, I don't think that you could do what I did today back then. I mean, meaning I don't think it would never happen today, because when I started, it was early 2000s. You couldn't just pick up and Google sit. You couldn't just now I would have been called out, blackballed for sure. You know, I started off, my very first job was, and I just found this recently, which is crazy, is my X-Files call sheet, from 2000, December 11th. And this was the day I was fired. And I know that because subway train, I was fired in the subway. And, before the cameras stopped recording, you told me an interesting story about Subway on Spiral.
You almost got fired on Spiral in the subway.
In the subway scene.
Darren had this fucking amazing idea for this oneer on an open subway platform during rush hour. And it was going from the very, very top from outside all the way down into the tunnel. It was an insane idea.
And let's not forget who was in that shot.
I was in it and I got cut out.
and someone else was in it. Your wife.
Lila. Yep. Lila was in it. Yep.
Yeah. I don't think there's been a movie or project that I've worked on that I've not been fired numerous times. And there's a good chance that I will be fired on this podcast, specifically with my phone and the camera.
I will not fire you, Darren.
Anyway, I worked on X-Files and I was fired by Robert Patrick on this day on X-Files. I didn't get
Did he specifically walk up to you like, excuse me, Darren,
yeah, okay,
but you're gonna have to take a walk.
I'm not going to tell this story right now because I just told it before the cameras broke, but I was working on my script, The Desperate. And I'm going to throw another thing up here, The Desperate. This is listen, you can listen to a million other podcasts and hear that story about how I started. But I came to LA and I thought I was going to be this huge deal. And I realized quickly that I wasn't, that I was no different than anyone else. X-Files, I was working 20 hours a day. I was a PA. I was the first one there, the last one to leave. And I was writing. When I was locking down sets, I had my little computer there. And on this particular day in the subway, I took a little nap. And a homeless, displaced person walked on set and right in front of Robert Patrick. And he goes, "Who the hell is locking down the set?" And I just heard this other PA pointed over at me, and I hear, "Darren!" And I open my eyes, and the entire crew is looking. And I'm sleeping. I'm in the corner sleeping. I was fired.
Yeah,
rightfully so. And I was fired on Van Wilder and every other the Clay Aiken thing I did. Yeah, I worked with Clay Aiken.
All right,
yeah. Good for me. No, but you know what it was that I realized, and there's the thing that
when you were working for Clay Aiken, were you thinking, I got the gig?
Oh my God. No, I worked with a longtime friend of mine, DP Joseph White. And I remember both of us thought this guy was, I went to shake his hand and he wouldn't shake my hand. And it was a whole, I don't want to get into it. I don't want to say anything negative, but anyway.
There's another story about not shaking a hand that we'll get to maybe in a few episodes.
Okay. So, what was the question? By the way, when the camera, I had 6 drinks.
Breaking in story, dude.
So, no, yeah. So,
and how insane your story is.
I realized very quickly that I was not making enough noise, that I was just like everyone else. And this is early 2000. So this was the day of fax machines. So, I remember that I would scour jobs on Mandy.com.
Right.
And Mandy.com was like it was like a Craigslist, but for entertainment. Right. And a lot of times it would not tell you who you were faxing. It would just be a fax number and you would have no idea. And I, for months and months and months, would just fax my resume and I'd hear nothing. And then I realized I'm in a job and I'm in a world in a city of creativity and I'm faxing my resume. That's not creative. I got to be ballsy. I got to do something that no one else is doing if I want to be noticed.
Right.
And so it started with, one time I had learned about 411, and 411 was a number you used to be able to call on your phone. And it's like an operator. You can ask it questions.
Yeah,
a live person. They would tell you movie times. You can ask.
All right.
I did a reverse number lookup. I couldn't do that in Google, but I did call 411, and I realized it was a job that sounded awesome.
Right.
And I wanted to know who it was.
Right.
And so I traced the number. I reverse number looked it. It was a company called C2 Pictures.
Okay.
That was Synergy Pictures. For C2 was Mario Kassar and Andy Vanya's company. For those that don't know who they are, Mario Kassar and Andy Vanya made a few small films. They made Basic Instinct, Terminator, Stargate.
Small little things.
Yeah, Rambo.
Yep.
And I was like, holy shit, I want to work for these guys. So now I knew who I was faxing. So I have one up on everyone else. I call C2 Pictures, and I still don't know who it is I'm applying to. And I said, hey, I was just on the phone with Human Resources, and I got hung up on. My phone disconnected for the job. And they're like, oh, yeah, Mario Kassar's assistant, 1 second. Now I get patched through to Mario Kassar. I hang up the phone. Now I know I'm applying to Mario Kassar.
Right.
So I was like, what can I do that's going to get his attention? So I printed off my resume. I made like a ridiculous cover letter, and I went to Best Buy. And I I asked if I could have an old refrigerator box. And they gave me this huge box, and it was a refrigerator box that was in their trash. And I filled it full of confetti and styrofoam peanuts and like a silver dust.
Oh my God.
But wait, it gets better. I hired a singing telegram.
Yeah.
And I probably only had a couple $100 in my account at that time, and the singing telegram took it all. But the singing, I was outside when it happened. Yeah. I met her and I gave her the money, and she was to carry. It was a very light box because all that was in it was confetti and crap. And She goes in. She goes, I have a gift for Mario Kassar, and they bring her right through, and she does a singing telegram thing and leaves the box. And cut to, I had a flip phone, and about 30 minutes after this event happened, my phone rings.
Right.
And it's Mario Kassar's assistant. And they said, is Darren Bousman there? Very angry. This is Darren Bousman.
Ooh.
And they're like, this is so-and-so of Mario Kassar's office. And there was just silence. And I said, did you get my package? And then she goes, did we get your package? Yeah, we got your package. And I was like, did he like the package? And she goes, no, everyone is furious. And I was silent. And she goes, he wants to meet you tomorrow. And that changed my life. Yeah. Because that showed me that I was not the right person for that job. I was way underqualified.
Right.
But thinking outside of the box pushed me in a door that I should not have been in. And so for the rest of my career, that's all I did. I only sent things like refrigerator boxes with singing telegrams, and they got more elaborate and crazier. And I'll tell you the one that to me, I think was a more defining moment for me was I worked at a company called The Firm. And The Firm was a music management company and a TV company that represented everyone from Martin Scorsese and Leonardo DiCaprio to Korn and Limp Bizkit.
Okay.
I was a tape room operator. And what that meant was I would sit there and I would dub videotapes. All I did all day. But every week on a Wednesday, I would have to sit in the music manager meeting, and I would have to sit next to the VCR player just so I can hit play. Like, that's all. One night, one of these music manager meetings, I was there, and there's, 100 managers in the room, and they said, okay, so let's talk about the Static X music video. And the lady stands up who managed them and said, it's been canceled. Jeff Quatnitz, the owner, goes, why has it been canceled? Director backed off. Their album drops next week. We don't have time. And something inside of me snapped, and I was like, I stood up, and as I stand up, I see my boss going, my boss is saying, sit down. And I go, I'll do it. And Jeff Quatnitz goes, who are you? And then I remember, I'll never forget this. My boss says, he's no one. And I'm standing up, and he goes, what? And he goes, what is your name? And I said, Darren Bousman. He goes, Darren, I need to see you in my office when this meeting ends. And I thought I was going to be fired. Everyone thought I was going to be fired. Music manager meeting ends. I go in his office, and he said, what makes you think you can do this video? And I said, well, I own a 3-ton grip truck. I have a 35 millimeter camera package, and I'll do it for free. And he looks at me, and he opens up his desk drawer, and he writes down a number, and he goes, this is Wayne Static's phone number. Call him now. I want it on my desk in a week. And that was the lead singer of Static X. Now, I did not have a 3-ton grip truck or a 35 millimeter camera package.
You had shit.
I had nothing.
All you had was a dream,
and
dude.
so I called my mom as I'm walking out. I said, Mom, I need money now. My parents sent me some money. I rented a 3-ton grip truck and a camera package. We shot it a few days later, and it was on Headbangers Ball the next week.
Holy crap! That's amazing.
I went from being a tape room operator to directing something on MTV within like a few days. And again, it was only because I realized I would never, if I would have applied to do that video, never would have been considered.
Never in a million years.
So that's that was me in a nutshell.
We both had a movie, our first movies. Saw 2, Kids in America. Yours was a gigantic blockbuster. Mine died a slow death. But I have a photograph because I was so excited about when my movie came out in the Cineplex. And I took a photo, and years later, I look up and Saw 2 and Kids in America were playing in the exact same Cineplex in the exact same week. I think you beat me.
Awesome.
I think you beat my opening weekend.
I have the extreme pleasure of making the most successful Saw movie and the least most successful Saw movie. This guy right here. That's awesome.
All right, but you were talking before about 11 and your trials and tribulations.
You know, I listen. The thing I always talk about is the same director who made Saw 2 and 3 also made 11, and it's weird because it was, you know, I am only as good as the people that I'm surrounded with. And as we go through this podcast and we actually start making a movie together, you'll see that I think that so much of my success or the success, it comes to the artists who I'm surrounded with.
Yeah.
I've taken a lot of movies out of desperation. Desperation because I need to make mortgage or insurance or whatever like that.
I mean, we all do. Yeah.
I went to Spain to go make this movie, and it was an amazing experience. I mean, we shot in Barcelona, which was just fantastic, and the people were amazing. The crew was great. I realized kind of early on though there was some shenanigans afoot. So first off, the movie 11 was haunted, the actual set. And I'm about to go on another podcast, Chris Ramsey's podcast, to talk about the haunted part of what was going on it.
All right.
But I remember one day, like in this thing, I had these big grandiose ideas of like 111 demons, and these 111 demons, I wanted them all to be contortionists. And I was like, we got to find circuses and we got to find contortionists. Oh yeah, good. And I remember we showed up to set one day, and there were all these kids outside, and they had these signs, and it says, "We love repo, we love repo." And I was like, oh my God, I've never had like paparazzi or anyone knew who I was.
Yeah.
And it was all these kids, and they're like, yeah. And I drive up, and I have like an assistant that drives me, and I roll down the window and I sign some of their DVDs of repo.
Right.
And I get out and I take photos, and then I was like, all right, guys, nice seeing you. And I start walking, and they all start following me. And I was like, this is weird. And I was like, oh guys, I'm gonna go in. And they're like, no, we work here today. I was like, what? And they're like, we're the demons. And I was like, what?
Oh,
They put an ad out, and it says, come be in Darren Bousman's next movie.
Oh no.
Every one of the demons except the main one that had the main prosthetics were repo fans from Spain. And they were supposed to be contortionists and doing crazy shit.
No, they just wanted their DVD signed.
Okay, so it got from bad to worse. The whole production went from bad to worse on just ridiculous shit. You know, one of the things that you mentioned earlier, the director's commentary, and even in a director's commentary, you only get 90 minutes. You have 90 minutes to tell a million stories about what led to that production.
Yeah. And it becomes only the the things that are crazy, not the day-to-day stuff that we want to impart to people.
I know. And I think that there's so much that I've learned that we've never spoken about or talked about. And that hopefully through this podcast, people will get to see it real time as it's happening to us as we go through this process. And they could be small things. Like I remember, I think that when you go into a movie, you always think this is going to be the one. This is going to be the one to break me to the next level.
Yep.
And then you end up with an 11. Maybe on that one I actually knew, but I remember. So I'm kind of a whore, and I love to shoot. So anytime a movie comes along, I want to say yes.
Yeah.
Even when everything should be pointing to no, don't go there.
Yeah.
I'll tell you the moment on 11 that to me I was like, oh, I don't know, is the same person that made 11 made Saw 2 and 3.
Okay.
And I think that, you know,
but it wasn't Mark and Oren. It was somebody completely different. Okay.
No, but I wrote it, and I was directing it, and I had a good team around me.
Yep.
I started to realize some shit, and I remember one moment. And so we shot it in Barcelona, and I don't speak Spanish or Catalan.
Right.
And so there was a lot of things that I just kind of went over my head. But I remember that in this thing, I talked about the demons. There was supposed to be 111 demons. It's called 1111. I wanted 111 demons.
Yeah.
And I wanted them all to be contortionists. I was like, imagine they're all like bending backwards. And I was like, you guys should look at the circus and like try to find contortionists. And I remember the day that we were shooting that scene, I kept seeing renderings and production drawings. And I was like, oh, these look so fucking cool. And I remember the night before that, I saw a bunch of like Halloween masks. And I was like, what are those? And they're like, oh, those are for the background. Don't worry. The main guys are going to look great. I was like, I don't know. Those are kind of suspect. I left after my director's cut because I went on to do another movie.
Right.
We had sold the movie at that point, and they said, we have a couple of minor tweaks. Just a couple of minor. I was like, that's totally fine. Whatever you guys want to do, I trust you. They fly me in during the final mix, just to approve everything, to give it my blessing.
Right.
And I remember I got there and I was shooting another movie, so I'm really tired. And I get in and they hit play, and I remember I called my agent and I was like, my career is over. I'm done, because Repo was a failure. So when Repo came out, Repo did not do well. And then Mother's Day comes out, and it was in a lawsuit and held for 2 years. So the time Mother's Day came out, like it had been held for 2 years. Now 11/11 is my third, like the third of those type of movies.
Yeah.
I felt a tear roll down my face as
slow motion,
as I watched the demon scene that I just told you about, those demons. Because remember, they were supposed to be these demonic things that are floating in the air, and they're all contortionists. They didn't blur their masks out, so you could see cheap Halloween masks.
Yeah.
And they never removed their feet. Their feet were supposed to be gone. And so in the movie, you can see Converse and Reeboks and Nikes. And I remember sitting there in that moment, and I was like, my career is over. And movie making is a lot of that. It's a lot of those moments where you realize mistakes that were made and things like that. And the reality is, when someone sees the movie, you're not there talking to them, being like, hey, listen,
by the way,
those shoes are supposed to be gone, and that mask right there is not supposed to look
so
like
don't
that.
blame me for it.
And it's, I love when Project Greenlight came out. You got to see that. You got to see the kind of warts and all. And I'm excited about this and what we're about to do moving forward, because I think the audience will get a chance to see those missteps that we will make. And I've made a ton of fucking missteps in my career.
And I have to say to people listening or watching, we want you to help us avoid some of those missteps. If we start down the path and I convince Darren to make a zombie movie, but instead of looking like zombies, they look like, I don't know, ants, I expect our friends to help us.
That was a horrible analogy, by the way.
Yeah, it was a really, really horrible.
And by the way, for those keeping track, we've had to start and stop a few times, and this is what I'm excited about as well, what you're going to see in the upcoming weeks. Nothing goes as planned ever. You have an idea, you have this thought, and then shit happens. So in the few hours we've been recording this podcast, my dogs have come in, my children have come in. The cameras have each one stopped numerous times.
The producer Addison had a coughing attack and had to leave set.
Yeah, it happens. And the hope is that we're going to show you all of that as we make a movie together. But Josh, where's that? Give me one of those for you. Like, when is that thing that you realized you fucked up?
Well, I've made some horrible decisions as a screenwriter. We go into studios and they'll give us their ideas about something that they want to make. And I specifically remember one time I went into Tapestry. You know Tapestry?
Tapestry was who made Van Wilder. So yes, I know Tapestry.
So you got fired by Tapestry.
I was fired.
Okay, good. Andrew Panay was one of the main executives at Tapestry.
I think he might have been the one that fired me.
Okay, good. All right, good. I'm glad. I'm
not joking you.
So we went into his office, my buddy Bobby Florsheim and I. This was not for a horror movie, and he goes on to pitch me a project that I was like, this sucks. It was about two guys, two kind of swingers who decide to crash weddings in order to get laid.
You mean Wedding Crashers?
I do mean Wedding Crashers. And we passed in the room.
Oh.
Both we were just like, I just don't see that working out. I don't see that being a good movie. passed in the room. And that's happened so many times. Bobby, my writing partner, Bobby, one of my writing partners, Bobby, I have like a horror writing partner, Pete, who you know well. Bobby is my more comedy writing partner. And he got sent the original draft of Harry Potter. The original draft of Harry Potter. And he called his agent up and he was like, this is too English.
Yeah.
So,
you never know, man.
Yeah.
You never know.
But all right. So 11, 11, 11, bad decisions. Why would somebody want to be listening? Why are you here is basically what my question is. Why are you here?
Well, I mean, but my 5% on Rotten Tomatoes. I mean, no. Okay. So I think that I have had a career now, and I've had an insane career and one that I'm very proud of because while I've had number one movies, and I've had huge success, I've had huge failure.
Right.
But for some reason, some way, I keep making, I'm like a cockroach. You can't kill me. I just completed, I believe, my 18th film.
Awesome. What's that movie called?
I don't know. It was called Monster. I think they've called it Twisted now.
Okay.
But I have a feeling it's going to change again.
Okay.
But for some reason, I've been able to do them.
Yeah.
And I think that I've figured out a method and a thing that works for me. And I don't think there is one right way to do something, but there is a way that has worked for me and there's a way that's worked for you.
Yeah.
And I am excited to, I guess, show people how we do it and take them behind the scenes in maybe a way they've not been a part of.
Yeah.
And show it all.
Yeah. I mean, between the two of us, we've been working and getting paid in the industry for 60 years. And I feel like what I'm really excited about is bringing in the new generation. I'm excited about trying to help some emerging writers and directors and filmmakers, people that are interested both in horror, but while we will be making a horror movie, I think, the lessons that I think we'll learn over the course of the next year making this show will be for everybody. It won't just be for horror fans.
So I think it's a good point to stop for a second and just ask, what is Darren and Josh Make a Movie? Because it is not a podcast of us sitting here and lamenting about stories that we've told on previous podcasts. Yeah. Instead, what it is exactly what the title says it is Darren and Josh are going to make a movie. And you are going to be here for that on every decision, from the exciting to the boring to the mundane, to the nerve-wracking. Our idea with this podcast is to pull back the curtain and show you from the very beginning stages, all the way through the pitching of the movie, to the talking to development execs, to casting directors to find out who wants to do a movie like this, to the financiers, to the pitch rooms, to the studio, to actually being on set with the AD, through the distribution of the movie, hopefully, or we fail miserably. And there is a very good chance that we will fail miserably. And none of this will happen.
I disagree, dude. We're gonna be on this until we get a movie made. Between the two of us, we've had 40 movies made. This movie is gonna happen.
And I hope it is Good Luck Chuck too. No, and I think that what is exciting about this is that I have been very lucky in my career to create and be around cult fandoms, whether that is the Repo, the Genetic Opera, or the Tension Experience. And I realized the kind of people have asked me, what is that formula?
Yeah.
And the formula is you give it to the fans. You let them do it. You let them run with it. You make them part of it.
Yeah.
And I think that my best and most exciting creative endeavors have been with the fandom, who have surpassed being fans and kind of became creators with us.
Yeah.
And so I think throwing
and friends, like
exactly.
It feels, yeah.
So throughout this journey, we are going to make this an immersive podcast where you're going to be in it with us. You will meet us at bars. You will share scotches and bourbons with us, and we will go down the rabbit hole of trying to perfect and make a horror movie with you.
Yeah.
And I think that is exciting.
And at this point, we're trying to make a movie that's not a studio film. We're trying to make a movie that other filmmakers, emerging filmmakers, can really take lessons from and make their own film.
Do you know, I remember I just listened to Joe Rogan's podcast and he had Robert Rodriguez on. Mm-hmm. And the very first book that I ever read about filmmaking was Rebel Without a Crew. And
I
look at that.
Fucking love that book so much. Yes.
And hearing Robert Rodriguez talk, it inspired me all over again.
Yeah.
Because, you know, he made that movie El Mariachi for like $1.
Yeah.
And I think that we are going to use every trick in our toolbox to make something and show people how you can make something without a Lionsgate or without a Dimension Films or without, you know, a Fox. Now, our hope is they will buy our movie and they will like it. But
if you're in Fox or Lionsgate or Dimension, we'll be coming to you.
Yeah, we're coming to you. But I think that it is a combination and a hybrid of what I've always wanted to do is we're going to show you what they don't teach you in film school. You're going to see it firsthand. You're going to listen to it firsthand, and you're going to make a movie with us firsthand. I think our next episode, we start, and I think there's a lot for us to figure out. And it's going to start with the thing I love about horror is there's so many different subgenres. And I've kind of dipped my toes in a lot of them, from religious horror to slasher horror to supernatural horror. I mean, you've done fish horror. I mean, let's not, I did just take a movie on an amazing shark movie that I hope I get.
Oh, sweet. Awesome.
But there's so many, I mean, that's a perfect one. It's nature turning against man. Like there's so many subgenres of horror. And I think the first thing we got to figure out is with the audience is what horror movie are we going to make?
Yeah.
And,
but we're also going to be trying to do it in a way that is, it's going to bring the audience along and help them do their own film. Like that's what this whole thing is about. It's not just about us making a movie. It's about bringing all of the people who have lifted us up over the years and bring them along for the process and hopefully be the person that they talk about on their podcast in 10 years about, you know,
I think that this first podcast is an introduction for what this will be and what we are going to do. Starting next week, things are going to get real. And I think that we should throw something out to the audience right now as the first thing is if you're listening to this, most likely you are a horror fan. You like horror like we do. Why? What is it about horror and what subgenre of horror speaks to you? I think we all have favorite subgenres of horror. I mean, for me, I love religious horror, whether it's The Exorcist or Rosemary's Baby or The Omen, The Sentinel. Like these movies to me, they fuck with me because I think that I myself am always questioning faith. So when I see a movie like that, I immediately get upset and disturbed. What about you? What is that subgenre that you want to see more of? And I think that whether that is that I thought the vampire movie was fucking dead. I thought it was dead.
Yeah.
And then I go see Sinners and I'm like, holy shit, there is a vampire movie. That is something I never would have thought of doing. What is that subgenre that you want to see? And what is that subgenre that you think ignites something in you? And I think that's the first thing for us to figure out is horror is such a broad thing. What's horror?
Yeah.
Henry Portrait of a Serial Killer's horror. Dale and what is that?
Tucker and Dale versus Evil. Fucking love that movie.
That is a horror.
It's horror.
Those are two. Cannibal Holocaust. That's a horror film.
Yeah.
Those are three completely different. So where are we going to start on this thing?
Yeah.
And what can we do well? And I think that's the other thing is that knowing what I think you and I do well, what is it that we do well, and how can we take whatever subgenre that is and put our stamp on it?
Yeah.
And that's what I'm excited about as we move forward.
I'm looking forward to it, dude.
Cheers, my friend.
Cheers.
And for all of you listening or watching, we encourage you to join us on this journey where we are going to make a movie. And this was pre-production. We are going to start next week in actual pre-production where we figure out
development. We're starting with development.
What the fuck were you going to do?
Yeah.
And hopefully answer some of your questions along the way. So please give us a like, give us a share, give us a follow, download our bullshit.
Send us some questions. Send us what you want to see.
And please follow us on Instagram. What is our Instagram handle?
DJ Make a Movie. Across all channels. Blue Sky, Twitter,
is that a thing?
Instagram. Blue Sky's a thing. Instagram, TikTok. We have a website, djmakeamovie.com. djmakeamovie@gmail.com is our email. We got it all.
Addison
will put it all on the bottom in the comments section, so make sure you check it out.
Thank you for paying attention and listening and watching and having some scotch with us. And till next time.
All right. Cheers.
Cheers.
Cut, Casper. That's a wrap.